Welcome to Abnormal Truth, everybody. Thanks for clicking in. I hope you listen to this one because today we're going to talk about subliminal messages. In 1988, John Carpenter came out with the movie They Live. And I'm going to attempt in this video to show you how that is actually, for the most part, true. So if you don't know about the movie, this is a little clip from the movie. You can go look up the movie on YouTube. There's lots of videos on it and what it means. But it was an incredibly predictive movie or an incredibly telling movie. And again, this was made in '88. And basically this guy finds some sunglasses, and when he eventually puts them on, this is the kind of stuff he was seeing everywhere. And there were also a race of aliens that lived with us, and he could see them also when he put the sunglasses on. And also, so in this video, I'm going to show you different types of subliminals in advertising, but I'm going to go a step further and show you different ways they're doing that, and then show you the lesser known ones that they're using with the technology we have, and that isn't being put out by advertising, it's being put out by governments or people within the government. So that's my goal of this video. So I am going to show some advertising that is kind of well known, but I want to give people the idea of what types of subliminal messages are out there. Now in this video there's lots of cuss words and phallic symbols and all that, so don't let your children watch, but I want you to know what they are seeing and not even realizing it. So the first one I ever saw was on the pack of camels. And this person told me that there was a naked man and a lion embedded within this little picture of a camel. And after I saw both of them, I was amazed and shocked that we let them do this, that they're doing it, and that it also has an effect on us. Now, they put vulgar images in these because it has more of an effect on the subconscious. So over and over and over, especially, you're going to see the word sex. But I just want to show you different types in advertising so you get the idea. And there's also a few ways that you may not have realized you were being manipulated. And I'm going to show you the scope of this, and this is everywhere you go. And I'm just trying to wake people up to this fact because it's another part of the control system. And it's a big part of it. So, this is not just TV and magazines. When you go out into the real world, if they can, they will get you in other ways. Now I want you to take a quick look at this and tell me what you see. Is there anything wrong with these? Well, it spells the word sex, which you'll just see over and over and over in subliminals. And it's pretty disturbing that they were coordinated enough to do that. All three of these movies came out with that's their posters, and they happen to spell sex. So that gives you an idea of how pervasive all of this really is. So let's give an example of one that you can't really detect because you're going to see these at different times and different dates and different places. But when you put them all together like this, you can see what were they trying to purvey the president as. What are all these pictures put together make you think of? Well, he has a halo in each one of these. And you could see how if they did this during elections, this would catapult his campaign slogans of hope and change. And they're definitely portraying him as some sort of savior here. And that's one you may not have realized. And I'm going to show you some that you may not know. And I'm going to show you some that are kind of old school and some people know about. But this is another way they are getting us. And this is on a political level. This isn't advertising a product, guys, which isn't right either. We shouldn't let them do that in advertising. But once the government or political campaigns are involved in it, it's even more wrong in my opinion. So the next one I'm going to show, everybody, almost everybody has seen this page. It's Facebook, and it's the login page for Facebook, and it says sex. I noticed they have kept this page. They haven't changed this in years. For as far as I can remember, this is the way it's always been. Their login pages always look like this, and you even have it on Facebook. And so you can see how millions of people have looked at this and not realized that yeah, the word sex is on pretty much the main page of Facebook. So I'm going to show you a few ads here just on the advertising end of it. Axe is putting subliminals in their ads and on their bottles of their product. And of course, again, it spells sex. And you can see how S-E-X in a vertical, you have to read it vertical. And that's kind of a way they'll hide it. They can put them upside down or vertical, and then they hide the S. So in this one, we have another kind that you may not have noticed. Look at this one. You have the letter S, and then what's in her mouth there? It's a cross, right? Or a necklace. But it's turned around a little to where that is an X. So you have an E somewhere there in the middle. And maybe not even an E at all, just the S and the X there, and her looking all sexy. That's a subliminal message right there. So this one is an obvious one. I want to show just as an example. Look at this. You have a bird there on the left and a bee on the right. And in the middle of this, it spells the word sex. And I wanted to put this up because if you see that word sex in there, like it is really big in the middle there, every time you see this from now on, you'll see it. So it's kind of breaking the programming. Once you see it, you can see it easily next time you see that image. And you can also get better at looking for subliminals when you know their methods. So after that pack of Camel cigarettes, somebody told me in the 80s that they were hiding pictures and words in the ice cubes on these kind of advertising. So they are hiding pictures and words in these kind of ads, and they're still doing these kind of ads, and the bottles always have these beads of sweat, and there's ice cubes involved because it's easy for them to manipulate that and all that chaos and put those messages in there. Now this kind of thing is kind of well known, but did you know that it goes back a long ways? Now this isn't the oldest example I'll show you, but this is a Coca-Cola ad, and I'm not sure what date it's from, but just by looking at it I can tell at the latest it's like 1920. And this is almost 100 years old, proving that they knew about this and that they were using it. And in her hair, intricately, is spelled the word sex. So all the way almost 100 years ago, maybe even more if this is like early 1900s. But it looks somewhere between 1910 and 1920. And it's just an example of this is not a modern thing. And so that was very interesting to me, but it goes back further than that, and which I'll show you later on in the video. This next one is a couple of pictures from the same ad, or the same ad campaign, and it's Palmolive. And you've got a kind of stylized, filtered, artistic image here. But look at her arm. Do you see anything wrong with that arm? It's a man's arm. And that is insinuating that there's somebody in the shower with her caressing her leg. And again, you may not have noticed that kind of thing. And that's definitely not her arm after you know that. But if you're flipping through a magazine real quick, you wouldn't have noticed it. And so in the same ad campaign, there was another picture that I'll show you in a second that does the same thing, and I'll show you that this is one of their MOs. And I didn't realize this till I started investigating subliminal messages again here recently. So in this one, you take a look at it. That's a man's hand caressing her neck in the shower, which is a sexual suggestive subliminal message that would be kind of hard to detect if somebody didn't point that out to you. And this proves that it's not a mistake or anything. This is definitely intentional. Two different pictures, same, you can tell it's from the same ad campaign. And so it's just showing you another way they can do this. And because then you can look for them and see them. Now, this is obviously a well-known way to do it in the industry. Because here's another one. This one's suggesting there's somebody else in there with them. A threesome, if you will. And it's a very suggestive ad, but when you look at it, you might think that there's only two people involved there. Well, there's three. Look at all the ways those arms are situated. That one arm touching her neck could not be the guy. There's somebody else there, so be aware. Now let's get into a little bit of cartoons. This one's self-explanatory and in your face. And obviously it's them laughing at us. And if you look into The Simpsons and Family Guy, you'll see predictive programming in there. And I won't go into all that, but you can see how that's pretty weird that they put out there. And I think I even remember catching that on this episode. So Disney movies I'm not going to go into a whole lot because that's like the only thing you find almost when you look up subliminal messages like on YouTube. But look at there, the Illuminati is spelled out on that chalkboard. And you may laugh at the Illuminati, but the more you look into it, you know that that's actually some sort of organization out there. There could be different factions of it, but it is a real thing. And they do have something to do with Disney, and you can go look up all those subliminal messages in Disney videos that people have out there, and it is as bad as they say. Now, you might say, well, that Illuminati, maybe they just happened to write that on the board, it was a fluke. Then how come in this older Disney cartoon, on the wall it says, ask about Illuminati? You got to ask yourself, you have all these people talking about the Illuminati, and then you have just a couple examples of right here of them saying, hello, we control Disney. So it's not one example, it's two. And they're constantly messing with our children. It's not a good thing for your kids to watch, but yet they have this wholesome kids cartoon persona. And in this one, now guys, I have nothing against gay people, and I'm happy for them that they can get married, but there's a definite agenda here, especially nowadays. It's full blown that they are trying to confuse the sexes with Justin Bieber looking kind of like a girl. Sometimes you really wouldn't know what he was, and that's confusing all the young girls. And it goes on and on and on. There's a lot of work on that. But why is Disney putting "be gay" in their video? And you can see how the flowers do spell out gay, and there's a B right in front of them. Be gay. Now, again, I don't have anything against the gay people, the gay community, but I do have something against our government trying to confuse the sexes and get rid of the family, basically. And you can see that happening big time. Now, there's occult symbols in some of these, and Walt Disney has them. 666. You got to ask yourself, they're putting be gay messages in their movies. They have the Illuminati has basically said hi a couple times. There's bad stuff going on with Walt Disney, and he wasn't a good guy. And here you can see 666 in their logo, and there's also in the new Taco Bell logos outside of their buildings. There are 3 sixes in that. They're just kind of turned around where you wouldn't notice it right off. But isn't it amazing that all these insidious things are put into Disney movies, and then you also have 666 in their logos. So you got to wake up, people. Disney is shaping the minds of our children, and I won't go into it anymore because there's actually a lot of work on that Subliminal and Disney movies. Now this is a big one that I don't think a lot of people know. And what they're doing here is, like in Photoshop, they can take a sample of his skin color and then go down a shade or two or up a shade or two and write words in his face that your normal eye cannot detect. And you would have to open this up in Photoshop and blow it up, and if you got the right filters, it'll help you see these words. But this is everywhere. This is probably in every magazine that's popular. This kind of subliminal is everywhere, and I did not realize that this was going on until I was doing the research for this video. And it's going to show you another way they're doing it, and it's hard to detect. It really is. You have to go in there and look at it. And here is an example of somebody doing that and tracing words that are on his picture. Now, again, this is political. This isn't advertising. Okay? You have the word sex like you always see, but you have the word obey a couple times there on his face. And you can see how insidious this is. It's a terrible thing to do to us. I don't like the words obey and sex ending up on the president's picture. And I believe this is everywhere. I mean, I could pull this off on Photoshop easily. And it takes a lot of work to kind of find all the words, but there's always several words on these people's pictures. And you know, George W. He didn't order this. Somebody behind the scenes is doing this to almost everybody's face that they want to change your opinion about. And I think this one is probably the most common. And like I said, I think in every magazine you'll read, this is going on. Because what's happening is this just a little bit of slight color difference in their skin color, and you can draw out you can write a word out and it'll be undetectable because it's just a shade or two above or below of what his actual skin color is. You see what I mean there? But your mind will still read these words. And I don't have a lot of good examples of these, but I think this is one of the most important ones that most people don't realize that is going on. And so just like the They Live movie, you have these words everywhere, commands. They're commanding you and messing with your mind, and a lot of you don't seem to care about any of this stuff that's going on. To me, this all ties in on how much the world is controlled, and I think that's something a lot of people are looking into and waking up to, the fact that we're being controlled on so many levels that it can pretty much only be described as satanic. Now, this is an older one, probably from a magazine. It's just an example. And like I said, this is being used everywhere. And you have F her, which I've seen in lots of different ones. And of course, you have that mainstay sex a couple of times. Sex with her. You have F her a couple of times. Then you have the 666 down there. Isn't that interesting? That's also pointing you towards these are satanic groups that are doing this to us. And why would they put all this stuff on there? It is when you put vulgar and taboo subjects like that, it has more of an effect on your subconscious. And so it makes you pay more attention to the image. And it also can give you commands. So this is an important one that I don't think everybody knows about, and I have a couple other ones. But this is probably the most pervasive one out there. I can see this. It's going to take a lot of work for me to research this particular kind, but I'm sure that's so easy to do that it's everywhere. And they've also found it on like David Icke's website. Pictures of himself on his own website has these. Same way with Alex Jones on his website. The pictures of him have these messages on there, and I don't know what that means. I don't know if I'm pretty sure they didn't do it, but I guess there's a question or not whether they know they're there or they're bought out, and so that's a whole nother subject. But even in the Grateful Dead, you can see how they put a message in there, and not only the sperms trying to get into the egg there, and the phallic symbols on the side, you have 8 acid within that logo. And you can see how that kind of artwork, I can barely read the Grateful Dead in it. There's so much chaos in the artwork that they can hide 8 acid in there. Now, I'm not sure if Jerry was aware that this was going on. They weren't a big commercial band like a lot of them were. They basically just toured all the time, and so I don't know. That just shows you another level. Now this next one is, I don't like this one. The basically the ketchup here looks like a tongue, a red tongue, but you can see the way they did it. It's pretty realistic. If you painted that tongue the color of most people's tongues, they would just. I should have did that in Photoshop just to show you. But it's that kind of thing, that kind of images that if you're watching on TV and this is going real fast and they just put that on there, you wouldn't notice it. But when you still frame it like this, you can tell that's what they were going for. And so that is some of the examples of, like I said, I think a lot of people know about this kind of thing in advertising. And we shouldn't let them do that in advertising, but when they do it on a government level and are putting commands in our head on like a government level, that shouldn't be going on, and it shows you that there is mind control. You may have heard that, oh, the government's mind controlling you. Well, they really are. And in this next picture I'm going to show you is another one that we don't have a lot of information on, but I believe is going on. Now let me just describe what's going on in this picture. This woman had a Boost Mobile, probably a $15-$20 flip phone that had no texting or internet capabilities on it, did not take a SIM card or a memory card. And yes, those phones are still out there because some people just want their phone to, But the point is yes, she could have faked this, but I believe her in the story behind it. I believe she caught this on accident, and I realize how, this could be faked. Of course, anything can be faked. But just the story and everything and the way she tells it, I believe her, and this gives us a glimpse into the big kind of subliminals that are going on your TV. And so she's taking a picture here. She's just trying to get the light right because she knew she couldn't put this picture on Facebook from that phone. She was going to use her other camera that she could hook up to her computer and get it on Facebook that way. But she's taking a little practice shot, and she took this picture. And there's no mirror involved here. That word kill behind her on her TV is actually backwards. That's the way they did it. And so several days later, she was in bed going through her phone trying to delete anything that she didn't want on there. She noticed this. Now, let me tell you a little bit about the technology behind this. Our TVs go at certain hertz or frames per second, okay? We can, at the most, humans can perceive 35 frames per second. Like in video gaming, if you're getting 15 frames a second while you're playing a video game, it's going to be real choppy because it's like our reality, our consciousness, our conscious perceptions can only really perceive somewhere around 35 frames per second. That means there's 35 pictures a second creating the motion in the video. So why do these days we have televisions and like the television stations putting out 60 frames a second? Now, I can actually tell 60 frames a second when a video shot in 60 frames a second. It's just a little more fluid, okay? But now we have TVs up to like 240 frames per second. Now, what does that mean for somebody that's trying to slip a little millisecond message on your TV that's you cannot perceive while you're watching it? They can have 240 frames into which they can slip one of these little pictures in, and I'm not even sure if that would be a millisecond. You know, it's very fast. You would not be able to detect this. And this is amazing. The reason why this picture is amazing is the chances of somebody clicking that picture on their phone at the exact right millisecond for this little blip to come up on the screen is 1 in 10 million. And then to have it on a phone that had the internet capabilities turned off, because on these little flip phones it's useless to have the internet on them for the most part. And she said it's been that way a year. You know, she just talked on her phone. That's no texting or anything. And so this gives us a clue into the big hidden subliminal messaging that they're doing. Now, there's no telling how often one of those messages pops up on this TV. And if you notice, it's kind of the same style as on the They Live movie. It's white background, black letters. And this one happens to say kill, which I've also seen on people's faces, like Bono. Somebody did some work on his Rolling Stone cover, and there's several words all over his face, but they're mostly trying, it looked like they were trying to get you not to like Bono, and one of the words was kill. So this is obviously one of their, I don't know, trigger words that they use. But this is being done by the government or somebody with enough power to put these messages on all the TV programs. And so this is not just your advertising trying to get your money. This is conditioning. And these are really hard to detect. I doubt I will come up with a system where I can detect these. If I downloaded a show and it was only going at 30 frames per second, it was only rendered at 30, I'm not sure you can detect something that was originally in, say, I don't know, 120 frames per second. You may not even be able to see those. So you may have to catch them live on the TV, and I don't know how you could do that. Maybe have a camera that constantly takes pictures, and after a while you could get lucky and catch one. And I don't have one of those cameras, and I don't have cable. That's just an idea for you guys that maybe you could come out with some more examples of this, because that's what we need. And I would like to see that happen from somebody with a little bit more technical skill than I have. But isn't that amazing? That's pretty crazy. That's one of the ones that you probably did not know about. And I look into a lot of this kind of stuff, and I just found out about her picture, and I think it's important. So that is I guess my main point is this is not just advertising. This is brainwashing on a government level. And so think about that, guys. And this next one is actually an oil painting. And I don't know how old it is, but you can tell this is a few centuries ago at least. Just to show you that they've known about this for a very long time and have been putting it into action. Now you see there at the bottom, you see that musical instrument? I guess it's a lute. I'm not exactly sure. Below that, there I guess looks like a feather. Okay, but it's actually a skull. That thing coming in diagonally on the floor, pointing towards the guy on the right. There's actually a skull, a picture of a skull in there, and you'll see the skull in lots of like alcohol advertising. You'll see the skull come up again and again. Now when I look at this picture, I just see the skull, but I guess I'm figuring that that was supposed to be somebody's feather pen or whatever. But there's a picture of a skull in there, and if you put it in a Photoshop in a 3D and kind of turn that around, you can see it even better. But that is a skull picture down there at the bottom, and that just shows you how long this has been going on. They've also found micro numbers in the Mona Lisa and its inner eyes, and it's a series of a bunch of numbers, and so they're trying to figure out what that code is. And so this, I'm just trying to tell you how long this has been going on, and I want you to think about the technology we have gotten in the last 50 years and how good they're getting at this, and because they know it's effective. And this is not just a modern thing. Now this next type of subliminal is high tech. I know a lot of you do not realize this is going on, and I don't have a lot of examples of this due to how hard it is to detect. Now I'm going to try to articulate to you on what I think is going on here. The only fact I have is like this picture. Now I'm sorry I don't have the video, but this video is up somewhere. And what this is a Fox. The first few seconds of Fox News comes on, they have this graphic where they have blue lights, and if you notice, there are a lot of flickering going on. And this little part where McCain is on, it's only like a couple second clip of, the beginning of Fox News, and it happens real fast, and there's lots of flickering lights in there. But if you pause this at the right millisecond, you would have seen this picture of John McCain on Fox News during the 2008 elections. They're using subliminal messages all over all of the news networks. I'm not just picking on Fox. All of those news organizations make me sick. So I'm not just picking on Fox, but this is proof on how technical they've gotten. You would not have seen this John McCain picture on there. You would have just seen Fox 5 News and a lot of flickering and fancy graphics going on. Then they would have went to the news. Real fast, kind of short thing. But if you knew what to look for and pause it at the right moment, you would see this. And so my conclusion to that is, and I always knew that those little, even after this like intro video they show, you know how they have all those little graphics everywhere on the screen, and every once in a while they'll do that flickering fancy graphic and change the words. There are words being spelled out there, guys. There are messages being relayed in those fancy little graphics that you see. Now, where else do you see this happening? Football. I don't watch a lot of football, but a few years ago I watched the whole season of the Cowboys, and I noticed they had all those fancy graphics up there because I haven't had cable TV in a long time. And I noticed that they're using the same kind of graphics as the major news stations do. And so I can just assume that the same kind of thing is happening all throughout those football games. You have the little flickering fancy graphics that are going real quick. And I almost guarantee there are pictures in there. And you can just see how that's a method of operation for them. But this is really bad, guys. This is them shaping your political views, not just advertising trying to make a dollar off of you. This is what I want you to realize, is this is everywhere. And it's not just for advertising. And this is undetectable. If you saw this, you would not have noticed this picture of McCain up here, and this just happens to be during the elections. And so you have advertising pretty much screwing with your head. You know, you have the news doing it. You have it everywhere, and that's what I want you guys to realize. Because I used to hear the term, you're being mind controlled, and you're like, huh, surely not. No. But if you take a good look into it, you actually are on so many different levels. When they're interviewing a guy, I saw an example of this. They would interview, and let me know if you've ever seen this. Say there's a male interviewer, and he is working for Fox or whoever, and he has a guest on they're usually protesting something or against something or saying something is not right, okay? He's protesting against something. And the interviewer will start looking bored. He will not make eye contact with the camera. He starts looking down at his pictures. He's acting bored. That's a way for you, the viewer, for him to control the perception and the whole conversation. The guy will be saying, we shouldn't have this going on, and he'll cut him off, and he's acting like he's not even interested. And that puts in your mind that whatever he's saying is not worth anything. And so it's not just all these pictures and words that are being put in front of us that we can't see. It's also the content, just like in the Disney movies, the actual stories are actually doing something. Well, in the same way in the news, and I know you've seen that, guys, the guy who's supposed to be interviewing, he looks real bored and he's not making eye contact with the camera. That's so that they destroy in your mind that the guy that's protesting, whatever he's saying, isn't worth anything. And there's all kinds of stuff like that going on, especially in the brainwashing freaking news that everybody is watching. So I hope I have shed some light on some of the different ways they're doing this. I hope you see on what kind of scale this is going on. I hope you realize how effective this is. And I believe it is what is keeping everybody complacent and conforming and basically turned us into sheeple. Anyway, guys, I want you to tell me what you think in the comments below. Like and subscribe for me if you enjoy my videos. I'm getting some followers now. I'm putting out a lot of videos. I think this is my 8th video in 3 months. And I want you guys, if you have any different methods that they're using with subliminals, tell me about it in the comments. I'm active in our comment section. It's one of the reasons why I put these out is I want your feedback. So till next time, guys, keep your eyes open. I love all of you guys, and I'll see you next time.